What is up, Packers fans? Happy draft day. Welcome into the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. Sorry for being 1 minute very fashionably late. We made it. It is officially here. It is draft day. It's in Green Bay. I had the opportunity to go down there this morning for the live radio show over at Buffalo Wild Wings. It was a ton of fun. I should start off by saying, by the way, today's show is presented by Luiges Pizza. Great to be back partnering with Luiges. Get your draft pizza ready this weekend. Get yourself a Luiges pizza. You can find it in the frozen food section. You can find them at Festival Foods. You can find them over at Meijer. You can find them in a variety of different places. So make sure that you are getting your draft pizza party on with Luiges frozen pizza. I cannot recommend it enough. By the way, everyone that I've recommended Luiges to that has gone on to try it has literally come back to me and has said, it's amazing. It's fantastic. Like, thank you for letting me know that it's the best frozen pizza. It just is. I'm not making things up. It is by far and away my favorite. It was my favorite before. And that's the reason why you have that sponsorship, because it's been my favorite before I even knew that Luiges had any interest in doing any sort of collaboration. So get your draft day pizza with Luiges frozen pizza this weekend. And again, thank you to them for sponsoring the show all throughout this draft weekend. All right. Going to get to a lot of questions today. We'll try to be here for the next hour and a half or so, get to as much as I can. If you want to make sure that you get your questions in, get those super chats in. But we'll get to as much as we possibly can. I'm sure there's a ton of great questions. Want to shout out everyone again who came out yesterday to the live event over at Hagemeister Park. That was a ton of fun. Let's kick things off right away with Chicken. When was the last time a player the Packers drafted had 10 sacks in a season? It's got to be Clay Matthews, right? I don't think Perry did. Kenny Clark did not. Devontae Wyatt's obviously not gotten there. LVN's not gotten there. So off the top of my head, I would assume the last, drafted Packer, Mike Daniels, maybe Mike Daniels stats. Let's see. No, Mike Daniels never came close. So he was 6.5 was his highest. So yeah, I'd probably say Clay Matthews would be my answer to that. I fear Egbuka is going to be the best wide receiver. I didn't know who you were talking about there. Emeka Egbuka is going to be the best wide receiver in this class, and the Packers won't take him because he maybe can't play outside. You know who else had the same comments? Justin Jefferson. First of all, they're the same athletic profile. I don't think there's any way that you can watch the tape of Emeka Egbuka in college and Justin Jefferson in college and come away thinking that they are the same player. That's not to say that Emeka Egbuka can't be really good. I think he very much can. I also think that Green Bay is not going to have any concerns of like him being able to only be a slot guy or anything like that. They're going to know exactly what he can do. They're going to know that, what kind of role that he would have in this offense. There'll be conversations with the coaches. And I don't think they're going to view him as a quote unquote slot only guy in this draft. I think they'll understand that he can play outside as well. If they don't take him, I think it's going to have a lot more to do with, potential upside is, can he be that all pro / Pro Bowl level wide receiver? Or is he just going to be a good wide receiver, which is, by the way, not the worst thing in the world, right? So it's a great way to start draft weekend. All right. That's not the worst thing in the world is if you go and get a really talented wide receiver, but I don't think they're going to pass on him because they think he's only a slot guy or anything like that. I think if they pass on him, it'll be because they feel like there's better values that are on the board and they'll have a great feel for who he is. So I don't think he's Justin Jefferson. I'll be stunned if he goes on to have a Justin Jefferson-esque career. But if you do look at their sort of spider charts, their athletic charts next to each other, they are basically carbon copies of one another. Don, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Really appreciate that. She said, Joey, member for 11 months. Fine with any pick tonight except Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson would be ultra aggressive at pick, 23. So I don't think he's going to be in play there. He's just one of those players where like, if you get to the draft after the fact and they select Landon Jackson, you'll kind of have this feeling at the end of like, God, we should have known better that would potentially be a pick, right? And the reason I say that is, height, weight, speed. As Justice said the other day, like there's a lot of LVN to him. Like you're getting a kind of LVN player who's got all the effort in the world, height, weight, speed, big time athletic profile, actually had some productivity in college. This is very much a Green Bay Packers type guy. Like, no question around it. So if they love him, if they really like him, again, this is one that we will probably look back at and say, man, we probably should have seen that coming a little bit more. I think it's too rich at 23. I don't think he's going to be the pick at 23. I think it'd be pretty surprising. But, when I narrowed it down to 10 guys, he just, was the last guy that I put on there is like, I can't roll this out entirely. So I think you're going to be safe, she said, Joey. Logan, thank you so much for gifting those memberships. Appreciate that a ton. That is very, very kind of you. And hopefully some new people get to check out some new members only content. Today's 9 a.m. beer was unmatched. Holmgren Way is popping. Yeah, it is. Holmgren Way is Oneida. I was down there this morning. It was already getting busy. I'm so excited. I've got the TV on in the background here. I'm so just unbelievably excited just to see the crowd and what it looks like in Green Bay, like just goosebumps sort of stuff. So it's going to be a very epic day. And that 9 a.m. beer sounds awesome. I'm running on Pop-Tarts, Mellow Yellow, and Vibes right now. So not quite the 9 a.m. beer, but something a little bit different. Really what's going to get you a buzz more? One beer at 9 a.m. or a bunch of Pop-Tarts, Mellow Yellow, and Draft Vibes? I think I might have this 1-1. Luke Paul, do you think that's realistic for the Browns to draft Travis Hunter and still land Shedeur Sanders if he falls enough in the draft by trading up? I do. I really think that's a possibility. And I don't think it's an impossibility that it could be via using Green Bay at pick 23 to go up and get him. And that some of you might be saying, well, is Green Bay really going to go out of the first round? One, I do believe that Mark Murphy's telling the truth when he says that Goot has a blank check to do whatever he needs to do to improve this team to the best of his ability. That's trading up, trading down, whatever that might be. He will do it. And I think anything's on the table. The other thing that I would not rule out either is, let's say you can move back to Cleveland's spot, right? Let me just take a look at what Cleveland's draft picks are. What was the Give me 1 second here. Here we go. Sorry for the wait. The draft IQ. So Cleveland here. So Cleveland has picks 33, 67, 94. Now, let's just say this. This is probably a little bit ridiculous, right? But let's say Cleveland comes up and says, hey, or maybe the Giants would be better. Give me 1 second. No, this is fine. All right, we'll do Cleveland. So Cleveland's at pick 33, right? They're pick 33. Let's say they call Green Bay at pick 23 and say, hey, we're going to give you pick 33 and we're going to give you both of our third round picks, pick 67 and pick 94 to come up to pick 23. Green Bay says, cool, we'll absolutely do that. Pick 67 and 94. We'll get both of those. We'll go to pick 33. That's not a big deal for us. Plus, what we're then going to go do is we're going to take our, fourth round pick 124, and we're going to package it with that pick 33. We're going to get back up. Washington is said to be moving out of round 1 potentially. So we're going to package it with Washington and get up to pick 29, just 4 picks ahead. We're going to give up our 4th rounder to do so. Washington picks up an extra 4th. We move back up into the first round at pick 29. We still have a first round pick. And in the process, we basically went from pick 23 to pick 29. We moved down 6 spots. We picked up 2 third rounders and gave up a 4th. And it's a later 4th for 2 earlier thirds. So that is some sort of, scenario where I could see Goody being like, yeah, we'll take that deal to move down with Cleveland or New York if they want to come up and get a quarterback. And then we'll just take a 4th round pick, which is probably all it's going to take, to Washington or maybe even to Buffalo, Philly, or KC. If they are willing to move down, again, maybe just a 4th round pick to get back up in the end of the first round. Could easily see something like that happening. So just in case you see Green Bay move out around 1, don't be shocked if you maybe see them calling to get back in at pick 31 or 32 to still get that pick at the end of round 1. If Morgan is really going to compete for left tackle, and God knows that the offensive line is the most important position group outside of quarterback, I really think that interior line is also on the board early. I think offensive line in general, again, it shouldn't be around 1 round, or offensive line is at plus 1,000 for round 1 right now. So certainly the gambling odds are not in the favor of taking an alignment in round 1, to say the least. But I very much think that they can continue to work on their offensive line. You could legitimately see a world in which both Sean Ryan and Rasheed Walker leave via free agency next year. Zach Tom gets a big contract, and all of a sudden you're looking at and by the way, Elton Jenkins, a huge like $20 million that they can get off of if they release him as well. I mean, really, they're in a way, you can be willing to bet that Zach Tom's going to still be on the team. Jordan Morgan's going to be on the team, and Aaron Banks is going to be on the team. Like everyone else that there's potential outs with, whether it be via free agency or whether it be via, Elton Jenkins maybe wanting to move on and just get a little bit cheaper there. So you could easily still continue to attack offensive line, knowing that, hey, it's still great to have depth now. You're probably only 6 deep right now. And then the other fact is that you can still add some pieces for next year that you want to get ahead of things a little bit, because some of those guys are in fact going to leave in free agency next year. So I easily see offensive line still very much being in play here for Green Bay. All right. I'm Daniel Martini. I miss Clay Matthews. Yes. I feel like Clay doesn't get, I've talked about this before. I don't feel like he gets like the legendary sort of status that he deserves. Like, he was unbelievable and is a huge reason. And of course, like, even the most like iconic play, I mean, maybe the Nick Collins pick six is a little bit more. There's a couple in that Super Bowl, but man, the forced fumble was the huge play, the huge swing in that game. I feel like he is a all-time Packers legend, and it doesn't always feel like he gets kind of recognized as such. What flavor Pop-Tarts were they, and were they toasted? Anyone have any guesses? Frosted cherry Pop-Tarts, no toasted. I'm a huge no toast Pop-Tart guy. Do not want anything to do with it. It's worse warm than it is just at package. I would rather put them in the fridge or even probably the freezer than put them in the toaster, but I like them just room temp is perfect for me. So room temp Pop-Tart. I can either go frosted cherry, blueberry's great. Also, obviously the goat, brown sugar cinnamon as well, but was feeling cherry this morning, so went with cherry. Since the Kevin King, true or false, since the Kevin King year, Packers fans media preferred consensus first round picks have a better record than the actual picks. Oh, I think that's probably for sure. I think that's absolutely true. I've joked already in the past that just let the fans take the best pick at, whatever is on the board, and then let Goody do the rest. You'd have probably an unbelievable track record. I mean, you're probably looking at, all right, let's take a look here. So Packers draft history. So if we go back, let's just go back. Well, it depends. Rashawn Gary would have been Brian Burns. I think we all know that. So Rashawn Gary would have been Brian Burns. In 2019, what it would have been Darnell Savage. I don't know what Darnell Savage would have been. That's an interesting one. I'd have to look back and think on that a little bit more. Maybe it still just would have been Darnell Savage. Andre Dillard was a player that I know a lot of people liked, myself included. Hollywood Brown, maybe. Maybe it would have been Hollywood Brown, but that would have been an interesting one. 2020 would have been T. Higgins. We know that instead of Jordan Love. But again, you don't have Jordan Love then, so that's a pretty big issue. In 2021, instead of Eric Stokes, let's see, 29 was Stokes. It would have been Elijah Moore, I think is who it would have been. That would have been a pretty big mistake. I think it would have been Elijah Moore at that pick. I think that's who a lot of people wanted. That would have definitely been a mistake. Not that Stokes was any better, so it's not like a huge drop off there. So, sorry, I have to go back here. So what do we've got so far? We'll just maybe keep Savage as is, but you're probably talking about Brian Burns, maybe Hollywood Brown, T. Higgins, and of course you're not going to keep going wide receiver after wide receiver here, but Elijah Moore instead of Stokes, Quay and Wyatt. That's another interesting one. That probably would have been 2022 draft. Devin Lloyd would have probably been the first pick, which I think it would have been an arguable one instead of Quay. And I think maybe Karlaftis instead of Wyatt. I think it might have been Devin Lloyd and George Karlaftis in that situation had it been Packers fans making the pick. So that would have been interesting. 2023, I think it probably would have been Christian Gonzalez, right? Obviously, TJ Watt over Kevin King back in the day. That would have been another one if we go back even further. And then in 2024, it obviously would have been Cooper DeJean. So, yeah, I think you could make the argument that Green Bay would probably be in a better position if you just let the fans make the first round pick and then Goody take the rest. Will Carroll, Pop-Tarts, Mellow Yellow, and Vibes. He just like me for real. Hey, what more do you possibly want in life? It's draft day. Live your life. No regrets. All right. Let's see. I don't know that I buy Morgan as the left tackle of the future, but I really think their favorite offensive linemen anywhere from rounds 1 to 3 are in play. I don't think they're going to take an offensive lineman in round 1, but I think if they really liked one in rounds 2 through 4, or really through the rest of the draft, I could easily see that being the case. Nicholas, thanks so much. I see us going D tackle first with Kenny's age and Slayton gone. I think Goot still loves LVN getting all the opportunities. Corner depth is fine. I think it's going to a little bit be more based on who's there and again who they think is best player available. I think the other thing that you do have to take into the equation here a little bit, and Nicholas, again, thanks so much for the super chat. I think the other thing you do have to take into the equation a little bit is the depth of defensive tackle in this draft, and the fact that they might just feel that they can still get really good defensive tackles later. Where I do think corner and especially maybe defensive end a little bit more, I think do fall off a little bit as time goes on, especially corner. So it wouldn't stun me if like corner, like it does fall off. Like you get here's my big board for corner, for example. Travis Hunter's going to be gone. Maybe Barron, Will Johnson, Trey Amos, Maxwell Hairston in that kind of pick 23 range. But let's say you get to the second round. Let's say all of those guys are gone. Now you're sort of in the Benjamin Morrison, Savon Revel range where there's a lot of injury red flags there, right? Azariah Thomas is, I think, 20 years old, young, inexperienced, probably can't come in and help you quite as much right away, but very talented player. That's probably like a second round option. And then in the third, it's like Darian Porter, Noel Williams, Behal Cone. Like it ends up falling off a cliff pretty aggressively after those first five guys. And I don't know, again, either injury red flags or just, again, productivity red flags. It's a little bit different come, I think, the later rounds. So I would say you could argue that maybe you go corner first, get that done, and then you still have the ability to take edges, defensive tackles, wide receivers later. But I think a lot of it's, again, going to be dependent on what's on the board and what they think is best player available. JSN would have been the pick in, you're right. You're probably very right. So we've taken like 5 wide receivers now. It should have been Christian Gonzalez, by the way. Christian Gonzalez would have been my pick at that time. So maybe I was just revisionist history from my standpoint, but you're very, very right. It probably would have been JSN. Definitely give you that one. All right. What pick would make the Green Bay crowd at the draft go wild, and what pick would make the crowd go mild? I think an offensive line would probably make them go mild because it would be surprising. It would, at least like if it's Harrison or if it's, one of the corners, I think there's a little bit more in the ether of like, you could see it coming. It's not going to be the shock. I think what would take it out, the air out is if it was a shock and it was a player that people didn't want. So, Simmons is a really good player. You shouldn't necessarily boo it, but I think that would take the air out of the crowd a little bit. I think to some extent, if it was like a Landon Jackson, that would maybe take the air out of the crowd a little bit. Just, I think anything really, really surprising at a position that's maybe not fun would be something that would take the air out of the crowd. I think anything, Matthew Golden would probably get the crowd really going. If Ted McMillan somehow fell there, that would get the crowd going. I think Will Johnson, I think people would be very thrilled with that. I think Derek Harmon, people would be very excited about. So I think those would probably be the ones that maybe get people the most excited. Emeka Egbuka, I think people would be very thrilled with as well. So those are probably the ones that would get the people going, if you will. Finally catching a live show. Alarm ready, set for 1 a.m. UK time for the draft. Go Pack Go. Dodgy hamstring. Man, get those hamstrings checked out, my friend. But thanks so much for being here. Enjoy the draft. Awesome for checking in from the UK. I would do the exact same thing if I were in your position, getting up at 1 a.m., setting that alarm and making sure I'm checking it out. But hopefully you can stay up late and enjoy the heck out of it. But thanks so much for being here. We're picking a corner, first round, book it. And I'm feeling the Kentucky corner if we stay at 23. As you guys know, that was my official prediction as well. Let's take a look at the updated FanDuel odds here. All right. So we've got Green Bay right now. Last I checked, it didn't change. We're still at the same. Defensive lineman edge is at plus 115, corners at plus 145, wide receivers at plus 470. So I actually think that like a decent way to kind of go about doing that would be betting, I think wide receiver and corner. I think that would almost be like, now if you put like 100 on each, right, you're going to lose 55 if it's a corner. But you sort of hedge your bet a little bit and you're going to win big if it's a wide receiver. I don't know. Maybe I just bet corner in this situation. There's a lot of buzz towards corner, whether I think Will Johnson and, obviously Hairston are going to be very much in play there. Like I went back and forth. I went Golden, Hairston, and then obviously Will Johnson as well. I went back and forth so many times. I could see it being any of those, but I almost am feeling more that it's going to be wide receiver or corner, and more likely corner than a defensive lineman at this point. But that's the beauty of this, is you just don't quite know. And it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how it plays out. All right. Just kind of looking at some of these, by the way, I went through some mock drafts yesterday in the podcast, or for today's, but some more that came out. So Albert Breer today, Tet McMillan, Charles Davis had Walter Nolan, Peter Schrager and Lance Zierlein had Matthew Golden, NFL Draft Scout, which is, of course, Matt Miller, Eric Edholm, Connor Rogers, and Dane Brugler all had Will Johnson. And then Bucky Brooks, Daniel Jeremiah, Josh Norris, and Todd McShay all had Max Hairston. So again, all over the board, but I guess 5 different guys that were really mocked to Green Bay, but 3 of them that at least had double digits with Matthew Golden, Will Johnson, and Max Hairston, which just so happened to be the 3 that I narrowed it down to as well. But we'll see. Like I said, that's what's going to make this so freaking interesting. Go Pack Go, soon to be Super Bowl winning rookies getting drafted to Green Bay over the next 3 days. King Kermit, I love it. Thanks for being here. Hope you're well with everything going on, Andy. I know sleep must be non-existent right now. Got a solid like 3 hours and 15 minutes last night. Not even remotely tired. I don't think I'm going to hit a wall because I think my adrenaline and vibes are going to get me through today, along with probably a kickstart, some Mellow Yellow. We got a Coke Zero right now. Rest is for a couple weeks from now. Once we break down all these draft picks, we'll get some rest in the books at that point. But right now we are running on energy drinks and vibes, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And of course, Pop-Tarts as well. And of course, Luigi's Pizza as well. That's for after the draft today. That'll be the victory pizza after the fact when we get to unwrap our presents this week. Make sure to like the stream as you join, everyone. Let's make this the best stream of the draft. King Kermit, thank you so much for that. Also, while we are talking about that, let me just shout out Habish and Rotier, by the way, as well. In Green Bay, we know every great team runs on hard work. That's why the attorneys and legal staff at Habish and Rotier bring relentless efforts every case, working for injured clients across the state of Wisconsin every step of the way, with 13 offices across the state, including one right by Lambeau Field as well in Green Bay. Chances are a Habish attorney has helped someone you know. Make sure to check out Habish and Rotier when you get the opportunity. I cannot thank them enough for, again, sponsoring the show this weekend. When you call Habish, you're going to be talking to a lawyer directly, 800-242-2874 or 800-2HABISH. You can find them online, habish.com, Habish Rotier, national reputation, hometown service. Visit habish.com for more information or call again 800-2HABISH. Huge shout out to them. And by the way, like just an aside, just for me, one of the things that you guys can do that helps more than anything, whether you're on the audio podcast or the video or it's a YouTube, like I know that it sucks. I get it. I've been there. I do it with everyone else, but viewing the ads, clicking on the ads, and then going in and helping our ones that legitimately sponsor us, like Luigi's and Habish, like they're going out of their way to support Pack a Day. Anything that you guys can do to support them as well is obviously super helpful and just, kind of reciprocates the love that they're showing us. All right. I didn't see this one, Fred. My apologies for missing this earlier. Not sure how I missed that. What the heck? Why is it not in my other feed? That's really weird. Huh. But Fred, thank you for that. If Edge doesn't fall the Packers' way, would you have any interest in Ogbo Okoronkwo? Probably not. I guess if they didn't get an Edge at all and you could get him for like a 7, I need to see his contract really quick before I speak on this because that is going to probably make it. I've actually been a big Ogbo guy. I really have liked him through the course of the years. He's 30 years old now. So you're going to get him at like $3 million-ish. So it's not the worst contract in the world. If you didn't get any edge and you were able to get him for a 7th, I'd be cool with it. He is not Green Bay's type at all, though. 6'1", 240. Again, I'd be fine, but I don't see Green Bay going in that direction. And sorry for missing that super chat. After Joseph's contract and Winfield's, how good does X's contract look? So much for overpaying at an unimportant position. Yeah, it looks unbelievable. I mean, just an unbelievable contract at this point. Again, thank you to the incompetent New York Giants for your incompetence so that Xavier McKinney can be a Green Bay Packer. Matt, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you a ton. And yes, love and draft day. John, almost every so-called bad contract will be good after a couple of years besides truly horrendous deals like Deshaun Watson because the cap is just going to continue to rise. It's some good common sense there. That's why I just wanted us to rip the Band-Aid off with Tom's extension, just make him the highest paid right tackle in the league already. I think it already might be a little bit past that. Like, I think they probably should have done it before the start of free agency, but these things are complicated. They take time, but just know that contract, whatever it ends up being, even if he ends up being the highest paid guy right now, is probably still going to age well. He's just a really good football player. And again, those contracts are only going to continue to go up. We know they like Maxwell Harrison. We don't know if they like him at 23. Possible they're hoping he falls and maybe they come up in the second round for him. First of all, Love and Football, I wouldn't say we know for sure that they like Harrison. There seems to be a lot of buzz surrounding that. I would be willing to bet you that there's nobody that is in the media that truly knows what Brian Gutekunst is thinking at 23, or if they have Maxwell Hairston. They're very easy tea leaves to put together. And we've talked about the type of players that Green Bay likes, and Maxwell Hairston fits that to a T. The age, the height, the weight, the speed, the SEC, the premium position, a position of need. It's all their metrics. We can go on and on. He hits everything that they look for. So, I mean, you can, again, read the tea leaves pretty easily here, but we certainly don't know that for sure. It also could be a situation. I think it's more likely if they like Hairston and they don't take him at 23, that it's that they move down to pick 30, 31, 32 and hope that he gets there and maybe they select him there. But I don't think that it's probably a move up from round 2 kind of guy. I think he probably goes well before that. But if they want him a little bit later and they think they can get him, maybe it's something where they move down in round 1 and are still able to get him. Hot take, Good should trade out of the first round just so there are more picks for Packers stars like Jordy to announce. There you go. Love it. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, my friend. Are you going to do a final full first round mock draft before the draft tonight? I don't think so, Jeffrey. I was planning on doing it for today's show and I just ran out of time. Also, I don't know that I have even a great enough feel. Like, it's fun to kind of predict it and to go through it. I mean, we could do one right now for kicks, but yeah, I just ran out of time more than anything else. I would love to kind of go through one quick, but it's not anything that was on like the top of my must-do list. And I did the mock draft, what was it, earlier this past week? And or maybe it was early last week. I don't know, whatever it was. I do have my mock draft out there, so at least I have one of those out there this year, but we'll see how that one does. I bet we trade up into the mid-teens for Shamar or Tet. Thoughts? It's not impossible. If one of those guys falls to 17, 18, I could see Green Bay maybe moving up 5 spots to go take one of them. I think you've hit the nail on the head, Shiri, with which 2 they'd potentially be interested in. If you told me there was a move up, probably Shamar, Tet, or maybe Michael Williams if he started to fall a little bit as well. Again, these things are unpredictable. We didn't expect the first defensive player last year to go, what was it, like 13th, 14th, somewhere in that range when Latu finally got taken. These things are weird. They're random. They're chaotic. There's been Jackson Dart buzz early. There's like just so much stuff out there. Who the heck knows at this point? So if they get to that point, maybe it would be a real possibility. Matt LaFleur is going to like a polished, high ceiling wide receiver like Igbuka. He probably does, but the GMs make the picks and they have sometimes a little bit of a different view than what the coaches have of the players. So we'll see. But again, I don't think here's, like I said yesterday, if they draft an offensive player, I can without just staying at 23. Now, if they move up or down, things change, right? But if they draft an offensive player at 23, it's Golden or Igbuka. That's it. I don't see any other offensive player that they are taking at 23 besides Matthew Golden or Emeka Igbuka, unless something crazy happens in Tet falls. And I just don't see that happening. So he is one of 2 players on offense that I think they could take at pick 23. Zoid is locked in for tonight. Love it. What's the Luigi's draft day special? For me, I am definitely going with their Supreme, the one without olives. Sorry, Luigi's, I love you, but I cannot stand black olives. So that is the one Luigi's pizza I will never eat. But no, I'm going with the Supreme, no black olives. All right, let's get to these super chats. I know we had a lot come in. All right, Nicholas. Oh, there's your chat, Nicholas. Sorry, there, it's finally showing up. All right, JSN would have been the pick in 23, correct. What's good, Andy? In which way will Brian Gutekunst break our hearts today? Just kidding. Everyone calm down. No one knows anything for like 3 years. Yeah, I mean, again, I understand the passion that comes with this, right? We all have our guys that we like. We have guys that maybe we're not so much a fan of, and we want them to take the guys that we like. That's a very natural thing. This has become an event. This is a game. We are fans of who they are going to take. It doesn't mean that we got it right. Doesn't mean that we got it wrong. It doesn't mean the Packers got it right. It doesn't mean the Packers got it wrong, but we have guys that we want Green Bay to take. We have certain positions we would like to see them maybe attack. Like there is a fandom level of this. So I understand why people are passionate about it. And that passion fuels everything that we do, right? It's a beautiful thing. I think your words are wise of like, hey, let's, not get too aggressive if we don't like the pick, but in ways that Brian Gutekunst could break our heart. I think the one that would maybe be the most likely if there was a true heartbreaking moment. And again, it depends on how you feel about a Shamar Stewart or a Maxwell Hairston or things like that. But I think the one that would be, hardest for people is if like all of a sudden Tet falls to 23 and then they trade out and they get to the bottom, or like they trade out to the bottom of round 1 and take like Jaden Higgins at the end of, round 1 and aggressively go after Higgins when they could have had Tet, or, Jahdae Barron falls to 23. And then, or maybe if you're a big Will Johnson guy, Will Johnson falls to 23 and they trade out 5 picks and then end up taking Hairston. I mean, those I think are things that are going to break Packers fans' hearts. Not necessarily me quite as much, but I do think that those would be things that, if happened, those would be the ones that would be like, just twist the knife right in the heart at that point. But I don't think those things are going to happen. But if it did, those would be some heartbreakers. Please, Genty to the Raiders or Jags, not the Bears. Unless Chicago moves up, they're not getting Genty. He's a top 5 guy in this draft. There's just no two ways around it. Whether Jacksonville takes him or the Raiders take him, I think Raiders are maybe at 6, but you get my point. He's not lasting until 10. So if Chicago wants him, they're going to have to trade up. And I'm very thankful for that. By the way, one of the big things that I just really don't want tonight is to see the Chicago Bears trade up. Whether that is for Abdul Carter, whether that is for Ashton Genty, I just don't want to see, like, there's a couple players there that I think could really help them. And Genty and Carter are 2 of those clear and obvious ones. And I just really, really don't want to see them do anything aggressive like that. So I think if they stay at 10 or even move back a little bit, there's not much that I'm ultra concerned about, but those would be 2 things that I'd be pretty frustrated with if the Bears did that. Sean, thank you for the super chat. Do you think we could do anything with the Saints to move up at 9? Who would we take? I want the Arizona wide receiver. I live for your content, Andy. Thank you. No, I don't think anything that high. I think if probably the highest they would go. What were the trades that I mentioned back in the my trade episode? Here we go. So what was the highest that they were able to get from pick 23 range? It was, so it took the 23rd pick plus a 5th rounder plus future 3rd and 4th rounders to get to pick 17. That was one that moved up for pick 17. There was one that got to like 13. There was pick 25 plus a future 1st round pick for pick 12. So at pick 23 for Green Bay, if they gave up 23 plus next year's 1, they could probably get in that 10, 11, 12 range, maybe even a little bit higher in this draft. So if you're on the clock with the Saints and the Saints need all the young help they can get, if you to get up to 9, you're probably talking about your 1st round pick this year, your 1st round pick next year, and maybe even a little something on top of that to sweeten it. Just no way Goody does anything like that, in my opinion. I thought there was one other one. Per the Rich Hill trade chart, their 1st and 2nd round pick should get you to pick 12. Again, whether or not that it would or not, that's another thing all entirely. But pick 12 would be for the Rich Hill trade chart. So yeah, those are some of the trades that maybe you'd be looking at, but I just don't think Goody's going to be that aggressive. This is a trade down draft, not a trade up draft. I'm trying to think who would have to be there. Again, if all of a sudden like a Michael Williams or a Shamar Stewart, maybe it's at McMillan fell to like 15, I think those would be the players that you would potentially attack. Unless they something crazy happened where, Mason Graham started to fall. If that were something that happened, because there has been some buzz of like Graham falling to 12, and maybe they have Graham as like pick 3 on their board or something like that, which I don't know that they would, but if they love him and all of a sudden he gets to like pick 12, maybe they could pounce. But again, you're talking about at minimum your 2nd and potentially a future 1st to get up that high. I just don't see Goody being that aggressive in this draft. Good question though. Sorry if this was brought up, but how would you feel about a trade for Kayvon Thibodeau? Would be my ultimate answer. Wouldn't move the needle for me at all. I just think there's going to be almost any guy that you could get in the first 4 rounds at defensive end, I would rather have than Kayvon Thibodeau. So if they do it, fine. It's not anything I'm going to lose any sleep over, but I would just rather they take a young player and develop that player rather than going after Kayvon Thibodeau. The one thing that would give me hope is that just the Giants were finding a way to screw him up in years past, and maybe he breaks out in Green Bay. But again, I would probably just rather take somebody early in the first 4 rounds rather than trading something for Thibodeau. Connor, I know we've got a good core, but any sophomore slump worries that the draft should potentially hedge against this year? I don't think so. I think, overall you're hoping for improvement, not necessarily, taking a step back. I do know that sophomore slump has been a thing for the Packers as of late. But, to me, I don't think you necessarily look at it that way where you're projecting that they're going to have any sort of step back. I don't think you go into it thinking that. As far as like, I don't think you hedge against Edgerrin Cooper falling back. I don't think you hedge against Evan Williams because you got Williams and Bullard and Oladapo all together in that secondary. Yes, I don't. Marshawn Lloyd is already in a group of very talented running backs, and he's not expected to be the guy. Jordan Morgan is going to have to compete for his spot anyway. So now I don't think there's anything that you kind of need to hedge against from a sophomore slump standpoint. That Pickens story is BS. Stinks of Goody disinformation. If Tet or Golden falls, Goody is trading up, but they probably will not fall. I think Golden could fall. I think Golden legitimately could even potentially get to 23. So I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't think Tet's going to be an option for Green Bay. And I totally agree. Pickens' story does not feel real and or legitimate. Again, I'm not saying that maybe there wasn't some hint of something somewhere that the reporter had, but I just don't see it happening is more my stance on it. Matthew, thank you for being a member for 12 months. Which quarterback will the Packers take in the draft? I've got what? Really 6 on my big board. I put Tyler Shock and Jackson Dart in the 3rd round, just in case they were there, of like it could potentially be a possibility, but I think we all know that that's not what's going to happen in the 3rd round for Green Bay. Terrell Gersma, the quarterback that they brought in for a top 30 visit, and then Will Howard, Brady Cook, Seth Hennigan, Riley Leonard, and Kyle McCord, I think are the quarterbacks that they could potentially look at some point on day 3 of the draft. I don't expect a quarterback, but I definitely think a quarterback is a possibility around that point in the draft. So anything round 4 through 7, if the right quarterback fell their way and they liked him, I could see them taking him. I'll say it's a coin flip, 50-50 that they take one or not, but those would be the guys I would keep an eye on day 3. Again, El Gersma, Will Howard, Brady Cook, Seth Hennigan, Riley Leonard, and Kyle McCord. All right, let's get back to where we were in the chats. Can I get Luigi's in lacrosse? I think so, Matthew. I'm almost positive, but I don't know that I have a perfect answer for that, but I'm pretty sure that you can. Andy, I can't decide on a wing sauce to get tonight at BW3's. Not too hot, but I want something good. Any thoughts? Let me see. I have to check the heat meter here because I like the hot wings. That is one thing. I am a weird foodie, but I like it. You could give me the hottest Buffalo Wild Wings sauce, and I have no problem with it. I'm not saying it's not going to be spicy, and you might not see, whatever, me being a little bit, but I will have no issue with it. Buffalo Wild Wings sauces. Let me give you my take on this here. I'm going to go with, right now, lemon pepper sounds really amazing. If I'm being honest, that sounds really good. I thought they had like a garlic, the spicy garlic. I don't think that's too spicy. But if that is, maybe not. Orange chicken sauce sounds good, but right now I would go with a nice lemon pepper. That sounds amazing to me right now. A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of lemon. I love lemon flavor on pretty much everything. So I'm going lemon pepper. Go Pack Go. Let's get T-Mac. Could definitely be a very fun player for Green Bay. No question about it. Do you have some pairs of similar-ish players in the first second that you'd be happy with either way? Tet Higgins, Kenny Grant, or Tyleek? Feel like we can go so many different ways, and I'm excited to see how. Tyleek is a great example. I would love to. In fact, I would rather Tyleek in round 2 than Grant in round 1. That would be a pretty much a no-brainer for me. So Tyleek over Grant, round 2. I would make the argument of I would rather take Jack Besh or Jalen Noel in round 2 than Igbuka in round 1. I would certainly rather take Luther Burden in round 2 than Igbuka in round 1. I love all 3 of those receivers, so that would probably be one that I could potentially go with. I would rather take Josh Connerly Jr. in round 2. I don't think he falls that far, but I'd rather take Connerly Jr. in round 2 than Simmons in round 1. Let's see if there's any other ones. I like my edges in round 1 if you're going to get a Stewart or a Michael Williams or someone like that. Those are probably the best versions of that I would probably go with. A couple of those wide receivers. And then, again, I would probably take Tyleek over or, a Kenneth Grant in that situation as well. That's a really good one. And Goody, we trust. Love it, landed. Rick, good to see you, my friend. Who do you think will be the penultimate pick of the draft? I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you. This is a great story from Rick. Thank you for bringing this up. In my youth, in my lack of wisdom, for some reason, don't ask me why, but it was used in a context towards me that when somebody said penultimate, I thought pen meant it was even greater than ultimate. So it was even ultimate and then penultimate. It was better, not the one before, but even greater than ultimate. So in my stupidity in my youth, in a meeting in front of a lot of people, said that I think that this idea is the penultimate idea or something like that, that it was the best idea. In which Rick very quickly reminded me, or taught me, I should say, that that is not the meaning of that word. And that penultimate is, of course, the one for the last. So that is a very fun story. Thank you for bringing it up, Rick. I hope you have a penultimate weekend, my friend. Will Carroll Goody plays this Rubik's Cube the next couple of nights. Yes, he very much will be. I mean, every GM is, right? Like, they are all trying to put together the pieces to put together what they hope is a beautiful draft class. And then you find out if you actually get that when you get these guys into camp and see what they ultimately can become. Perry and Fackrell both had 10 in a season? Really? Fackrell had a 10-sack season? No way. He had that like 4-sack game. That was probably the season, right? Where is his, why can't I just find sacks? We're so stupid. Holy crap. 10.5 sacks in 2018. I think yeah, that's absurd. I bet he had like 12 pressures on those as well. Now I want to see what he had. Kyler Fackrell. What was that, 2018? Oh my God, that's insane. PFF had him at 23 total pressures. 23 total pressures that season, and he ended up with 11 sacks. That's an absurd pressure to sack ratio. 23 pressures, 11 sacks. Nick Perry had one as well, you said? I thought I looked up Perry. I must have just missed it. Nick Perry had a 12-sack season. I think these are per PFF numbers on 51 pressures in 2016. Yeah, that's a really good season. I think, Perry gets a little bit too much hate at times. He was not a great first-round pick or whatever, but like, he was definitely serviceable for a good chunk of his career in Green Bay. I think it goes a little bit under recognized or whatever, but I'm not saying he's a good pick by any means. He wasn't, but he was a little bit better. But nice call out, Jeffrey. Good call on both of those. I would not in quiz have guessed that either Nick Perry and certainly not Kyler Fackrell ever hit 10 sacks. Yeah, Fackrell, crazy. As a former HR professional, what would be your best advice for someone joining your staff, similar to what many young men would receive from Green Bay soon? Yeah. I think it's a little bit different, for joining, my staff or whatever, and to just general advice for going into the workplace. It's weird. My expertise was more on how people get into jobs and how they kind of, interview and how they, go about the entire process of getting a job. That's kind of where my expertise lies. Like, I can coach almost anyone through getting through an incredible interview, and really doing a great job at that. As far as like what you do in the job, obviously it's a little bit job dependent, but I mean, it's kind of just the basics, right? Like, don't try to do too much too fast. Make sure that you're mastering the simple stuff first before you take on the advanced stuff. Come in on time, ready to work every day. Do your absolute best, and continue to grind and show that you are capable of wanting more. One of the big things I can say, the two biggest pieces of advice I would say is always see what you can do outside of your own purview. Master your own job first, and then what can you take on outside of that to help maybe a different department or something that you can cross collaborate on, or just looking for more opportunities. Opportunities aren't always going to find you. It's not that dissimilar to, an NFL player or anything else. You have to create your opportunity. So, I took on a lot of crappy projects in some of my jobs that nobody else wanted to get my foot in the door in different departments and be like, oh, look at what Andy's doing to cross collaborate or do some of this stuff. So that's number one. And then the other thing that I would tell you that is the most important thing, one of the most important pieces of advice that I ever got, but is also one of the most important pieces of advice that I can give to anyone. That's whether you're looking to work up the corporate ladder or, just, be really great at your job. I'll have somebody that we report to, right? In that situation. The best thing that you can do for them is make it so that they don't have to wipe your ass. So meaning do your timesheets on time, do all the things that you're supposed to without them needing to remind you. The last thing that they want to be doing is reminding you to do the work that you're supposed to get done. But the best one, the one that I'm really talking about here, is anticipating what they need done before they need to ask you for it. So if you can anticipate of like, hey, usually every Friday they're going to ask me to do this, or even like, hey, usually once a month we have to do this and nobody's done it yet. Yeah, whatever that thing might be, do it before they ask you to have it done, or when they ask you to have it done, already have it done. Um, the biggest thing is, again, doing your job to the best level that you can and making sure you're mastering your job first and that they don't have to, again, wipe your ass through the process. But the next best thing after that is now anticipate what they need ahead of time. Those would be my best recommendations there. Nope, no new camera. It did look different today. I do agree with you. Like when I came on, I do have the lights set up a little bit different today. So is this better? It does kind of look a little bit better, but because I wanted to be able to see kind of the TV, and just in case we got some like breaking trade or something. So I have them both focusing this way today. But I don't know. Let me know. Is it better, worse, different? Keep me posted. How would everyone feel if the Packers move up for Travis Hunter? I don't mean to poo-poo your idea, but this is a player that's going second overall in the draft. I don't think Cleveland's moving out, and the cost that it would take to get to number 2 in the draft is not something Green Bay should remotely consider for any player in this draft. I mean, you're talking about your first, second picks this year, your first round next year, probably stuff on top of that. There is no player in this draft, zero, none, nil, that you should do that for. And if you were to do it and you could get to pick 2 and that was your aggressive move, give me Abdul Carter too. So in no world do I think that should be a situation or a scenario for Green Bay. All right, remind me, Cora Smith at 12:05. I got to get back to once I get to these super chats. All right. I know it takes 2 to tango, but it seems to me Goody would love 2 picks in the 30s. I mean, I'm sure he would. If you move down from 23 to 32, theoretically, you should pick up their second round pick. If you then take those 2 second round picks and do the Christian Watson trade, we know that you can get to the top of the second round. So, I think you probably could maneuver it so that you're at pick like 32 and like 35 or something like that. And I think you could do that. But I think you let the board dictate a lot more of what is important to get to and what players you need to go get, rather than just kind of having this overarching philosophy of I want to be in the 30s with 2 picks. It depends on who's there at 23. It depends on how many guys that are there that you could potentially move back for. If there's a guy that's actually worth moving up for, I think those things are far more important. And just for me in general, if you took 23, moved down to 32 and picked up another second round pick, I'd probably rather have the 2 second round picks rather than any guy I could move up for in the early 30s. So I get the idea. I understand it. I don't hate it, but I think I would just kind of let the board dictate it a little bit more. Is there any chance we get Hunter? Negative percent chance. No, there's absolutely none. He's going to the Browns at pick 2. Again, maybe something crazy happens where there's a unreal trade. Green Bay will not be taking a pick in the top 5 picks in this draft, no matter through hell or high water. Nothing's going to change that. And Travis Hunter will absolutely go in the top 5 picks of this draft. It's one thing I feel very comfortable saying in this crazy draft. What do you think of Savion Williams in this draft? Yeah, really fun player. I can't necessarily get, somebody like a Cordero Patterson or Laviska Shenault. Laviska Shenault out of my head a little bit. Struggle with drops. Very fun player. You can use him in a variety of different ways. Wildcat quarterback, jet sweeps in the backfield, hand it off to him. But I think there is sort of a limit to what you can do with some of those guys. Now if he can prove he can be a legitimate, outside wide receiver, that changes it. But I don't think he's a great route runner. Again, he doesn't have great hands. You have to kind of scheme him. And I just don't know that you have a huge need for that particular type of player. If they get him, I have full faith that Matt LaFleur will find very fun ways to use him, and I wouldn't hate it. But I don't think he's probably one that they go with in this draft. What has it been like in Green Bay for the draft? Small town and lots of visitors. It's chaotic. I don't do great with authority. I'll just be like, I don't like being told what to do. Just throwing that out there. I like being able to just be myself, be free. If it's an authority and it's a very adult to adult, whatever, I'm totally cool with that. When I'm around the stadium right now, there's just a lot of security, a lot of police, a lot of things blocked off that are never blocked off in Green Bay. It's like the stuff that is extremely hard to navigate. And it feels a little bit suffocating to me, if I'm being honest. That is not to take away from the atmosphere around, the fans, the vibe, anything. That is all spectacular. This draft is going to be amazing. I'm so happy that it's in Green Bay. I don't want it to come off with any aura of negativity at all. I am thrilled. I'm also a little bit thrilled that I'm going to be here in my office and not having to necessarily navigate a lot of that stuff throughout the course of the weekend. But it's just different for me in Green Bay when you don't really have anything like that. And I can, you can sort of just go where you need to go and not have to worry about traffic or anything like that. And now there's all of a sudden like this central area of Green Bay that's just like, total not pandemonium, but just it's a totally different story than anything that ever happens in Green Bay, right? So I don't like all of the extra barriers and you can't go here and you have to go this way. And I'm like, I just want to go to where I'm going. Can I just go where I'm going? So there's a little bit of that that's just, again, out of my comfort zone, if you will. But the vibes are great. The energy's amazing. There are brats grilling, people playing bags at 8 a.m. this morning down by Lambeau Field. That energy is all unbelievable. And it's really, really fun. Patrick, Andy, why so much Hairston buzz? He can't tackle. Feels like Eric Stokes all over again. I'm glad you brought this up in a super chat, Patrick. I want to debunk 2 of these things. Actually, I'm going to debunk 1.5 of these things. I see 0.0% Eric Stokes in Hairston. I know Ross Uglum's brought it up. I do not see it at all. Not even remotely. Did not like Eric Stokes in that draft. He was fine, mid-second, late second round grade, but not somebody that I would have taken in the first round. Very straight line sort of speed, not a lot of, wiggle in the hips, not a lot of fluidity. The one thing that you need to know about Maxwell Hairston that sets him apart from Eric Stokes is there's legitimate fluidity to his game. That is a complete game changer. And that's just the ability to twist your hips and run with a player and you get your head turned around and make plays on the ball. And Eric Stokes was just always going to be a little bit more straight line and not have that great change of direction and fluidity within his hips. And that is always a red flag for me. And to me, Hairston has that fluidity, which is a unbelievably important aspect. Yes, they were both super fast players, but again, Stokes a little bit bigger, a little bit more muscular, and a little bit more straight line. Whereas to me, every corner that I will ever want to be taken, I want to see some of that fluidity in their game, and Hairston has it. Not to mention, he's got legitimate freaky 4.2 speed. I talked about this before, but Edgerrin Cooper pops off the tape. Just different. You don't have to be a scout. Just throw the Edgerrin Cooper tape on, sit back, and see which of the players that just what player flashes to you. Don't care if he's going to, in fact, turn on the game against Alabama. One of the best games probably the best game of any prospect in the 2024 NFL draft was Edgerrin Cooper against Bama last year, or in 2024. Or I guess in 2023. But it was unbelievable, right? But just sit back, see who pops out to you. And in a millisecond, Edgerrin Cooper's going to pop out to you. Turn on a Kentucky tape. And just, I'm not necessarily saying it from like, Cooper had a little bit more like the playmaking as well. At corner, it's a little bit tougher to do that. But just watch from a pure, unadulterated speed standpoint, which player stands out to you. He moves at a different pace than anybody else on the field. Usually plays well. That usually is going to matter. It's in Matthew Golden, right? 4.28 40. Doesn't look like that on tape. Looks fast. Doesn't look otherworldly fast. Hairston looks otherworldly fast to me. Like just a different animal on the field than everyone else. And that's crazy in the SEC to have happen. So those things are very important to me. The tackling issue, legitimate. Okay. Here's the difference that I would say, or at least what gives me reason for optimism. When I watched Hairston's tape, and these are all notes from weeks ago, by the way, I haven't changed my notes in anything on Hairston over the last few weeks at all. The thing that I will say about Hairston is not a great tackler, but a willing tackler. It's not that he is unwilling, that he's taking business decisions, that he's like, no, you go get him. It's not anything like that. He is a willing tackler. And there will be some plays on tape that you see him make a really good form tackle. He just needs to clean it up and be more consistent with his tackling. And quite frankly, just be a better tackler. I don't have a ton of concern about, again, with his willingness. I think he figures out ways to at least be serviceable as a tackler. A la Jair Alexander, like, early Jair Alexander, not maybe more recent business decision Jair Alexander. The early Jair Alexander that was never the biggest guy, but he played with a little bit of tenacity and was a willing tackler. I think you get that out of Hairston as well. So I would very much debunk the Eric Stokes talk with Hairston. I do think that he needs to clean up his tackling to a large degree, but he's a willing tackler. It's kind of like Musgrave of like, I knew he was never going to be a plus blocker, but I knew on tape that he was a willing blocker. He's at least going to get in the way, give a good effort, and that's something. It's maybe not perfect, but it's something. With Hairston, I think he's going to be an effort tackler, even if it's not ever a great tackler. So why the Hairston buzz? you look at somebody who fits everything that Green Bay looks for, young, and he's 20, 21 years old. Now I want to double check. Is he 21? Sorry, I should have this written down. 21 years old, turns 22 in August. So he's 21 years old. SEC, Power 5 conference, premium position of need. Obviously, they tend to go more defensive in round one. He has high-end upside, freaky athletic scores, hits all of the athletic traits that Green Bay looks for, save for being under 190. And that's sort of the, sometimes you have to look at the red herrings and say, are they real or are they fake? I think this one's a little bit fake. And I think Mark Oldacres has done such a great job of pointing this out of, again, and I think the bigger thing is Hairston went himself on a interview and said, yeah, in 2023, I played at 190, 195 pounds. And that was when he was at his best, was in 2023. So I think he has, the ability to put muscle on, to add some quote unquote functional strength and and to really even be better in that regard. And I think his best football is ahead of him. But here's literally one of my notes from, again, this was weeks ago. He has no idea how good he can be right now. He just has no clue just how good he can be. He has all the talent in the world to be a star corner in this league. Whether he gets there, that's the beauty of it. That's the beautiful mystery. But this was somebody that immediately to me stood out as a high-level player. And what does Goody do in the first round? He takes home run swings on premium position players that have freaky athletic traits. And that's what Hairston is. So that's why I think the buzz, you sort of look at the tea leaves, he makes sense. That's why he was ultimately my prediction today at pick 23. I don't feel super set in the ground in it, meaning like I, am 100% like, yep, it's just going to be Hairston. I see it going in so many different directions. You told me that I, have to quit the pod. If you could give me 10 players and I have to pick it right, or I have to quit the podcast tomorrow, I would not feel comfortable with any 10 players I put on the list. I would feel like I still could get it wrong. That's how crazy this is. And usually if you ask me, if you give me like a list of 5, I'm like, yeah, I'll give me 5 people, I'll for sure get it right. This year, give me a list of 10 and I still wouldn't feel confident. But Harrison's my pick, and I think there is a legitimate reason why there is buzz. And again, I can't stress enough how I do not think Eric Stokes is a fair comp for him. 2 players I love but make 0 sense for the Packers: Jahad Campbell in the first and Terrence Ferguson in the second or third. Hope they don't go to the Bears. A couple things on Campbell. One, there's some potential injury concerns. So I do think he actually potentially falls a little bit further, but that is a little bit more of an interesting one as to whether or not he's there. But of course, I don't think Green Bay is going to take him. There are some that think he could be a outside pass rusher, more of an edge rusher. I think you're sort of wasting. I think he's a better off-ball linebacker. But yeah, no matter what, John, I agree with you. I don't think he ends up in Green Bay. I don't think it's an impossibility that Terrence Ferguson could be a Packer. He is a A1 tier 1 Packer, no matter what way you look at it. Maybe they're not thrilled with what Musgrave's given them over 2 years. And if he's there in the third round, I don't think it's impossible. I don't think they take him in the second. But remember, what round does Green Bay get frisky in? Round 3. Round 3 is peak frisky Brian Gutekunst. He's like, you know what? We only live once. Let's get wild. Let's get crazy. We're not going to get crazy in round 1. We're not going to get crazy in round 2. Round 3, oh, it is time. They throw the disco lights on in the draft room and they get freaky. And that's when things go weird. So it would not stun me if Terrence Ferguson was in play in round 3 if he was there, because they do weird things in round 3, and he's a very much a Packers type player. What do you think? Which do you think we draft first, an off-ball linebacker or tight end? Tight end. I think that you could go for a blocking tight end. I think you need a number 3 tight end to come in and compete. And I don't think, again, they're 1,000,000% sold on Luke Musgrave yet. So I think tight end's a little bit more likely than an off-ball linebacker. I think there's a world in which they don't get either in this draft, but if you told me they drafted just one, I would say tight end. Following draft content when I should be working on my finals. Thanks, Andy. Dylan, happy to be a distraction. Those finals, they can wait. Procrastinate. That's the name of the game. You'll figure that out later. Today's draft day. Celebrate. Don't Amos and Revel hit most of Green Bay's thresholds too? Think the SA allegation could rule Hairston out? Yeah, I mean, again, I don't even know what to do with the SA allegation, because it's one person on Twitter that's been not reported anywhere else. It was while he was a minor. Again, I'm not, condoning, condemning, evicting, or, convicting, or, letting off the hook in any way. I don't know what to do with that. And it's possible that Green Bay says, yeah, we're out. He's just off the board. It's possible that they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's and everything and feel like it's not a situation that's going to be a factor moving forward. Devontae Wyatt had some questionable stuff. Brandon McManus had some questionable stuff. Green Bay's not entirely angelic when it comes to, they brought in Colt Lyerla after all the stuff that he had happened. It was just a rookie mini camp kind of guy, but they brought him in. If he would have been great in camp, they probably would have picked him up. So they aren't completely infallible when it comes to some of that stuff. So I don't know that he's going to be off their board, especially when he was a minor and that there's no specific criminal charge that's out there. I think that maybe changes it for them, whether it should or not. Again, I don't want to get into it, but I don't know how they're going to feel about it. As far as Amos and Revel, I mean, the big thing with Revel is we don't know the thresholds because he didn't test anything and he's been hurt and he's coming off a major ACL injury. So that's the thing with Revel. I think he's more of a round 2 guy. It's possible they could take him in round 2. With Amos, he's really, really close. But one of the things that you have to look for with Amos is I think there was an agility test that wasn't great. There was something that wasn't great. I think it was an agility test. Give me 1 second. It was... My God. All right. Yeah. Short shuttle and vert. The short shuttle was a 4.36, which is 36th percentile. They love agility in their corners. And that is a really scary score from a Green Bay standpoint. And then the vertical, they love their explosive players. He was only in the 26th percentile in the vertical as well. So I had 2 sort of red flag scores that usually I would say Green Bay kind of stays against a little bit more. So listen, I think there's a world in which they could take Amos, but I wouldn't say that he has like the 1A intangibles that they look or metrics that they look for. And Revel just didn't test, so we just don't know. Thanks again for all the great draft content the past few weeks, Andy. Maybe see you out there at the draft tomorrow. Can't wait to soak it all in. Go Pack Go. I'll only be at Buffalo Wild Wings tomorrow from 8 to 9 a.m. And then I'll be making my way back into the office. So just to give you a heads up on the schedule, today we've got the Q&A right now presented by Luiges Pizza. Tonight, live draft party, 6:30 p.m. tonight through end of the first round right here on YouTube. So make sure to check that out as well. Presented by Luiges Pizza. Then, of course, we'll have all of our normal episodes tomorrow, breaking down all the picks and everything like that. Another live Q&A presented by Luiges tomorrow at 12 o'clock p.m. again, so 12 to 1:30-ish. We'll be doing another one of these live Q&As tomorrow. Then tomorrow, I'll be at Buffalo Wild Wings in the morning from 8 to 9 a.m. for the Pack-A-Day radio show. If you want to stop out at 8 a.m. and come see me, I'll be out there. And then tomorrow night, another live draft party, 6 p.m. Central Time. We're going to have a lot more guests. Tonight, Justice might be popping in a little bit, but tomorrow, Justice is probably going to be there at some point. Tyler Brook is probably going to be there at some point. Andrew Mertig's for sure going to be there. Mark Oldacres is for sure going to be there. I think Maggie Loney is going to be there at some point. So we're going to have some more people kind of hopping in and out on Friday. But that also, again, presented by Luiges. We're going to do the live draft party right here on YouTube as well. Saturday in the morning, another live draft party, probably just for round 4 or maybe round 4 and a little bit of round 5. But then I've got a kiddos soccer game that I'm going to be going to and just kind of keeping an eye on the picks there. And then when the draft's done, we'll probably be kind of taking a look at things as well. And maybe hop on a little bit live later. But then the big thing is Saturday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. over at Titletown Brewery. I'll be doing a live Q&A. So if you're sticking around through the weekend for the draft, come around again, 6 p.m. on Saturday at Titletown Brewery. I'll be on my last legs of everything. We'll recap everything that happened and do that live. There's not going to be any recording of it, but just a live Q&A over at Titletown Brewery. So that is what I'm going to be doing over the course of these next few days. But I appreciate the kind words, Patrick. All right. I'm going to go to the bottom of the list again. If you guys had some questions that I didn't get to, just know that there's a billion things in here, and I'm just kind of going to the end of the list here. We got a Bucks and 6, man. I hope so. I don't know what they're doing with the John Horst thing today. Why? I don't know why. Just at least let the offseason play out. That was just a weird situation. All right. I need to actually try to get to Jacob Parrish before tomorrow. I still have a few guys in that round 2 to 3 range that I want to look at prior to tomorrow, and Jacob Parrish is very high on that list. So I've not watched him yet, but definitely want to take a look. I think Justice Mosqueda used to say that the draft is really only 4 rounds and that the talent level after the 4th is basically UDFA. Do you agree with that? I wouldn't say quite that much. I think in some drafts, like in 2024, like last year, it was very much a little bit more like first 5 rounds, first 4 to 5 rounds. But what I will say is usually you have your top 100 and then it kind of starts to fall after that. So top 100 is really kind of your main premium picks. And then you can still find guys like Zach Tom and David Bakhtiari and Tom Brady. So it just depends, I wouldn't necessarily go quite that far. And I think in this draft, you're going to find some pretty quality players on day 3 of the draft. So in this particular one, I would not say that. Andy, your week sounds exhausting. A piece of advice: ginger tea with honey. I thought yesterday there was a little bit of hoarseness in my voice at the end of the live Q&A yesterday. I'm like, oh God, like, can you imagine if like I just don't have a voice for the remainder of this weekend? Or yeah, I said, let me do this. That would not be fun. So I'm going to be taking extra care. A lot of liquids, probably not going to be the right liquids, but I'll make sure to take care of it as much as I can. All right, Ian, thoughts on Nick Scorton? Never see him mentioned as an option for the Packers, but he has good size, fits the position of need, and he's one of the younger players in the draft. I don't think round one. I think that would be very aggressive. That would be one that would take, I think, fans' breath away to some real extent, especially at 23. If they traded down to 32 and took Scorton, I could maybe see it. Here's the thing with Scorton. You have to go back to 2023 when he played at Purdue. That was much better Nick Scorton tape. He put on too much weight, played him out of position, similar to Shamar Stewart. Just didn't have the season anyone expected. Like you said, very young, very talented. What does Green Bay love to do sometimes? They love to take players that were better in 2023, that maybe fell off a little bit in 2024, and they think that they're going to be able to unlock that player that was there the year prior. Or sorry, like just the year prior, right? It doesn't have to be 2023, but you get my point. They like doing that. Scorton could be one of those guys that they saw in 23 and are like, oh yeah, he's a top guy for us. What happened in 2024 was an aberration. It's not real. It's fake. They used him completely wrong. He put on way too much weight because he needed to play that position. And now we're going to get him back to where, he's at a lower weight and he's going to be a much more explosive player. And we're going to get a top 20 guy in round 2, something like that. I could easily see him being a guy that they like. I think it would have to be round 2 though. I think round 1 would be very, very aggressive for Nick Scorton. I bet they take someone the fans will hate. I mean, there's going to be hate for the draft pick no matter who they take. So you're probably somewhat of a winner no matter what, Weed. Ben, I don't want to get too much into Bucs stuff on this one. Normally on like a normal Q&A, I would, but with it being draft time, I want to try to stick to draft stuff. Personal opinion, Goot would most likely be better off trading out of the first or at least to the late 20s. His first round misses are just too painful. I want to, kind of talk through this a little bit because I have been the first to say it has not been good enough, right? I'm not breaking any news to anyone there. The first round draft picks have to be better. What I will say is this: Jair Alexander was a home run selection. Things have happened with injuries since then that have not had it pan out as of late, but that was a home run selection. Plus moving down, moving back up, getting a first round pick. That was A+ stuff. Rashawn Gary, they would do that again. Like in general, if you could get his level of impact at pick 12, yes, you would have maybe liked to have seen him make an impact a little bit sooner. The ACL certainly affected some things, but I think his ACL is probably the bigger reason why. He was on his way to having an unbelievable career. I still think he's having a really good career. I don't think there's any regrets from Green Bay of taking Rashawn Gary at pick 12. In that building, I would bet there's none. Darnell Savage at pick 21, clearly not good enough. They took their best rated safety in that draft. They got 5 years out of him, 5 pretty mediocre at best years. That one didn't work out. But he was able to come in and play right away. In fact, his rookie season might have been one of his best seasons. They got their franchise quarterback in round 1 in 2020. Eric Stokes is an interesting case study. He looked good year 1. I don't think it was just fool's gold. I don't think it was just happenstance. Like, he looked good year 1. The hard part is he looked terrible year 2 before any injuries, and then is injured for basically a year and a half. Comes back in round 4, is given his spot back, and is benched before the season's end because he was arguably the worst player on the team, at least that got playing time. So that one did not work out. I think we can very clearly say that. Quay and Devontae are probably going to get second contracts. Again, did you get the ROI of the 22nd and 28th picks? Probably not, but you got solid players that are still helping this team. And then LVN and Jordan Morgan, I just don't think we can make a true evaluation on yet. LVN's clearly not trending in the right direction, but let's see what year 3 brings. I'm not willing to give up on him quite yet, but I will totally agree it's not looking great. Jordan Morgan was going to be the starter on the offensive line last year. He was going to be the starter, and it just injuries derailed him. He looked mostly fine, okay. As a first-year starter on the offensive line, that's fine, okay is good. That's not the worst thing in the world. I think he's going to be a long-term starter on the offensive line for Green Bay. That's not a waste of a first-round pick. That's a $20 million player potentially if he ends up at left tackle. If you get a good, solid, okay left tackle, that's like an 18 to 20 mil a year player. Excuse me. That's a huge value. So I get it. I'll say it again. It needs to be better, but I do think there's a little bit more nuance here. And guys like Gary, Jair, Jordan Love, and then even getting some guys that are at least, like Quay and Wyatt that are playable. And then, we'll see what Morgan and LVN becomes. It's not, I don't think, quite as bad as people are making it out to be, with the understanding that it still needs to be a lot better, especially as of late. All right. Contemplating the next great Green Bay cornerback bust. Who is the worst Green Bay cornerback bust in the last 10 years? Quentin Rollins or Demarius Randall have to be top of that list, right? I think both of those guys were pretty solid busts at that position. Kevin King. That would be an interesting I think Randall and Rollins, I think Randall's probably the worst on there. That'd probably be my answer. But Randall, Rollins, Kevin King, all very much in the conversation. Let's see. Kevin King by far. That's a fair answer. Very fair answer. Happy draft day, Max Coverage TV. Appreciate you. Drew, I genuinely dislike picking players with past injuries as early as the first round, but the Packers don't seem to mind. How do you feel? I know that they value their medical staff's opinion in the draft a ton. I've talked to somebody high up within the Packers organization on that side of things, and they said, if we give a medical grade of not draftable, or like, hey, don't take this guy, Goody takes him off the board. So, when it comes to the medical stuff, Goody trusts the doctors and everyone on staff that are doing these evaluations to say, hey, is this guy going to have future issues? Do I have to worry about anything? Or is he clear? Is he good to go? And if they give the all clear, Goody's going to be good with it. And if they say, stay away, don't want anything to do with them, Goody will take him off the board. So I think he's going to basically base that off of the medical decision more than anything else. I understand what you mean. I will say this. I struggle more if a player is going to come in and miss the first part of the season or miss all of off-season activities. I think getting a strong start for your rookies is one of the most important things in the world. Getting them off to a great start at rookie minicamp, getting them ready to go once minicamps and OTAs start, making sure they get off to a strong start at training camp, and then kick off the season ready to go in a role that is accessible and they can play a serviceable role, and that they're not being stretched too thin by trying to do something they can't do yet. If you miss a lot of that because you're injured, I think it really sets some of those players back. So now Catan was, fine by the end of the year. Christian Watson was somebody who had injury issues. Edrin Cooper had injury issues through camp. And, those guys are, for the most part, seemingly turning out fine. But for the most part, I do agree that if somebody is going to, avoid an injury issue, would be more of maybe be a little bit more cautious with guys that are going to miss the first 6 to 8 months of their career in Green Bay. I think that's a little bit tougher. Ahmad Carroll was not in the last 10 years. Otherwise, he would have been the clear answer. There's no way he was in the last 10 years, right? There's 15, 18 years now. When was Ahmad Carroll drafted? Ahmad Carroll was drafted 2004. So, we're 20 years away. So, not in the last decade. Thank God I was at least right about that. Josh Jackson, definitely in the conversation at all. By the way, great work with all the content, Andy. I'm learning a bunch from you, and it's really helping me improve before I fully launch my channel. Cannot express my gratitude enough. Good luck to you with your channel, Drew. That's awesome. Happy that you're enjoying it, learning more about it, and definitely wish you the most success in that new endeavor. It's a labor of love, so I hope you enjoy the hell out of it. Andy, is Jaden Higgins at 23 a huge reach? I would say so. The big thing I would say is, if you're going to take Jaden Higgins in the first, at least move back to pick 31 or 32 if you can, and make him that you're taking him there, even the beginning of round 2, and take him there, because I don't think he's going to go picks 24 through 32. So at least trade back to the end of the first and take him there. That would be my biggest thing. If they took him at 32, do I still think it's a reach? Yes, but at least you got some other capital, and it's a little bit more palatable if you were able to get a move down and pick up something of significance by doing so, and then taking him a little bit later. Oh, you're all good. Yeah, no worries. Let's see. Curious on something. Quick poll. Hulk Hogan. I mean, of course, it's Macho Man Randy Savage. 1,000,000%. No questions. I will be live here tonight starting at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Think there might be a little bit of a Justice Mosqueda cameo at some point as well, but for the most part, you are stuck with me tonight at 6:30 until the end of the draft. That is not what I said. I don't like authority. I don't like people telling me what to do. That's all I don't like. It has nothing to do with law enforcement, teachers, principals, popes. It doesn't matter. Just don't like people telling me what to do. Bosses. Yeah, just don't. And again, I have no issue if it's in a very respectful way. I can have an adult to adult relationship with somebody. I've had no issues with my managers at any point in time. So adult to adult relationships, I do very well with. Anyone that tries to parent kid relationship me and treat me like they're better than me because they're in a position of power, that's what I have issue with, is that level of authority. So that I don't like. And again, I don't like being told what I have to do. So even if it's a police officer being like, you have to go this way or you can't go this way, I don't like it. So yeah, that's, again, not saying I'm a perfect, of perfect character in that situation, but I'm saying that, not that I have any issues with our wonderful law enforcement. No, Drew, I will not. In fact, if you tell me to do something, I'm very much more likely to do the exact opposite. If I told you the Packers traded up to 15 tonight, who is it for? Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, or Ted McMillan? I would be. I can't get there quite. All right, let's go through the first round big board. Right, Travis Hunter won't be there. Ted McMillan is a possibility. I don't think they're going up for Golden or Igbuka. Don't think Membu is the choice, nor Will Campbell, nor any other offensive lineman. Mason Graham would be an interesting one if he fell somehow to 15, but I just don't think he gets quite there. I don't think it's Harmon. I don't think it's Grant. I don't think it's Nolan. Abdul Carter's gone. So Michael Williams, we already had Tet. Don't think Jalen Walker's there. Maybe Shamar Stewart. Landon Jackson, it certainly is not. Jahdae Barron, it's not. Will Johnson, it's not. Amos, it's not. Harrison, it's not. So there's only three. There's only three that make any sense, and that's Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, or Tet McMillan. Unless they really, really loved one of the defensive tackles. Like if they fell in love with Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, or Walter Nolan, and they just are like, we got to get this guy, maybe one of them. But if they moved up, I would think it is for Tet Stewart or Michael Williams. All right. Did I miss any super chats here? Drew, new member. Thank you so much for that. John gifted a Pack-A-Day membership. John, thank you for that. All right. There we go. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Sorry if I missed that originally, John. Oh, you did. Oh, no, Patrick. Sorry, Patrick, you did it twice. Thank you so much for doing it twice, though. I appreciate that. Sorry if I missed it the first time. Macho Mania for life. There are multiple players Green Bay will likely have to choose from at pick 23. I believe they will trade down and take a guy we weren't considering as a first-round pick. I believe Tyreek Williams could totally that's him. And again, when we're prognosticating of what's going to happen at pick 23, that's if they stay at pick 23. If they all of a sudden move down to pick 30, 33, I mean, that changes everything entirely, right? So I could easily see if they move down to pick 31, 32, somewhere in that range, where now it opens up a totally different group of players that could be in place, whether that's a Trey Amos, whether that's I think Tyreek Williams is a great example of a player that could open up in that situation. Maybe a Jaden Higgins, like those open up a little bit more if you're more in that 31, 32 range. Right now, Kyler Fackrell's probably had the better, couple seasons than LVN, but let's just see again what he becomes these next couple seasons. Trade down could easily be in that conversation. The talk of movement in the first round has me anxious, nervous for tonight to come than I was feeling before. Embrace it. Embrace the chaos, Ben. Enjoy every second of it. All right. Let's see here. What else we got, guys? Demarius Randall was the biggest bust. He was definitely in that conversation. Nemo, go Pack go. Aaron, go Pack go. Love all of this. What else we got, guys? Do you think these 7-on-7s will change how people draft wide receivers? No, I don't think so. I think they're still going to be very well sought after moving forward. I love the idea of trading down to with the Browns or Giants, but they have to jump the Steelers. Depends. If the Steelers take Shador, right, or take a quarterback, now it's maybe there's one guy left. Maybe one of those teams just really likes, Jackson Dart left at that point. So maybe the fact that, maybe those teams are waiting to pounce until one of the quarterbacks goes, and then they're going to pounce for the other one. So maybe that's the case, but it also could be that once Shador goes, now there's maybe only one guy left that they like. And maybe that maybe even makes them more aggressive in that situation. I bet Goot more likely to move back to add capital than move up, but I like Goot that he isn't afraid to move up or down if he feels it makes sense. I agree with everything that you just said, Omer. What does the AI think of who the Packers will pick? Mitch Thunder Nellis did that on the air this morning. I asked him to make a prediction, and he said he had no clue. So he asked Gemini, and Gemini said the Packers pick is going to be Matthew Golden. So we'll see if our AI overlords got that one right. I do not think the Titans will trade their pick. I think they are locked in, and I think they're going to go with Cam Ward, and I think they should go with Cam Ward. Braden Swinson, one of my favorite players in this draft. Love Braden Swinson. Let me just get up my notes really quick here. Where are my notes? Oh, that's right, because I have them really high. Strong, powerful edge rusher, can convert speed to power and uses powerful hands to knock back offensive linemen. Fantastic closing burst to the quarterback. Great length. Relentless on the edge. Does a really nice job of setting the edge and run defense. Doesn't give up on plays and will continue to chase plays down. Plays the game the right way, attacking and physical. Can play left, right, or stand up over center guard. Tested extremely well in the agility drills, and it shows on tape. Long arms help him a ton. Plays the game with a beautiful anger and intensity. Does a really nice job dropping in coverage. Game should translate very well to the NFL. Does need to develop an inside counter move. Yeah, as you can tell on my notes, very, very much love Braden Swinson. Any news on teams wanting to trade out of the top 10? I'm sure, Drew, that there are multiple teams that want to trade out of the top 10. Just don't expect Green Bay is going to be the one that's going to go up to get there. The Packers trade up to about 13. Who do you think they'll be trading up for? Because the Dolphins are fielding calls to trade down. I'm a new subscriber, by the way. Anthony, thanks so much for subscribing. I appreciate that a ton. We talked about this a little bit, but Tet, Shamar Stewart, or Michael Williams. Those are the three players that I could see them potentially moving up for. Nobody else really makes a ton of sense. I don't know anyone, Bryce. I don't know. I still think that this might end up in a release, but I think this is going to be a very interesting drama to play out to see what happens exactly with Jair. Is there a random player that goes in the spot before Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter that just makes the whole world go into chaos? I don't think so. There was a little bit of Jackson Dart at 3 buzz today. If there's something, maybe it's that. That'd be the most peak Giants thing ever, where you get Cam Ward 1, and then you get obviously Hunter at 2, and then all of a sudden Jackson Dart goes at 3. That would be the ultimate holy crap moment. I think that's a bigger holy crap than Michael Penix a season ago. Kevin King isn't in the convo. He was decent. Rollins and Randall were unplayable. It's fair. If we do trade down, who would trade up and what for? KC offensive tackle, or probably the Browns or Giants for a quarterback. Love draft day because after months of speculation, we get to find out how teams actually value the prospects. Last year, the DBs fell and the offensive linemen went early. Will be interesting to see. Totally agreed, Ryan. Josh Jones couldn't even get on the field. They moved him to linebacker. I think we were talking corners and not defensive backs, but Josh Jones very much in that DB conversation as well. Anthony's watching as a Dolphins fan. Who are you hoping for? I would love to see you. I mean, I don't want to see you guys get him because I want him to fall to Green Bay, but I don't think Green Bay is going to take him anyway. But I think Jahdae Barron makes a lot of sense for Miami, especially with all that's going on with Jalen Ramsey. You've got a Storm Duck out there as one of your corners, who's a fun player, by the way. But the great name in all of NFL is Storm Duck at the moment. But I think they could use an infusion of talent in that secondary. And Jahdae Barron is one of my guys in this draft. I think he'd be a really great move for you guys. Great daily draft episode this morning. Just needed Andy there. Yeah, it would have been fun, but obviously did the other episode. But now you get double the content, right? You get an hour and 15-minute one with Justice and Ross, which if you haven't checked out yet, is a great way to get you to the draft. And then, of course, you get my episode as well. ChatGPT says Harrison. All right, there you go. Who would you want the Packers to draft, and what's our top 2 positions of needs in your opinion? Yeah, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, very much in the conversation. I'd be thrilled with Derek Harmon. There's so many guys in this draft that I think would be just really fun prospects for Green Bay. I really don't want anything on offense. I would love Luther Burden, but I know that's not going to be the selection. So I don't really want an offensive pick here. Matthew Golden, I'd be totally cool with, but to me, Derek Harmon, Donovan Ezeraku is one we haven't talked about. I would love Ezeraku. I don't think they're going to go there. Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart. Yeah, those are probably, again, kind of and then Jahdae Barron. Any of those I would be freaking out about. Matthew Golden, no matter what, he's a fun player. Fun player. Stewart needs to finish better. No question about it. I was talking to John Papadopoulos for his show in lacrosse. That's going to air a little bit later today if you want to check that out. But there's three reasons why Shamar didn't have the productivity. One was because they played him kind of out of position, didn't let him actually rush the passer the way that you would want. The second is that teams were keenly aware of him, got a lot of double teams, extra chips, extra attention than what most players would get in that situation. The third was that he didn't finish well enough. Needs to tackle better, needs to come in under control better. He's a creator of chaos. He's an agent of chaos. He gets there and then chaos ensues. He needs to find a way to create chaos and then slow it down and then get the quarterback to the ground and make those plays, or get the running back to the ground and make those plays. So 2 things that, out of his control, how they played him and, just the amount of attention that he got, but he unequivocally needs to finish better if he wants to be a big time player in the NFL. I really like to see Goot add another corner in free agency with Rochelle and Ballantyne gone. Jair likely to be released. Only 3 proven cornerbacks in the room now. Rest no one's no high draft picks. Need more depth. I would guess that they're going to get at least 2 corners out of this draft, Omer, and that's going to help ease some of those concerns. Trade for the Dolphins? I don't think so. I don't think so. But again, crazier things have happened. They take Jackson Dart, I will lose it. It would be incredible Giants material. I'll say that much. Kind of hope the Packers' first round pick is at the draft so they can ride the bike. We can see them on the stage and they can concretely stay in Green Bay. This won't matter if we get a stud, though, obviously. No, it would be really cool if that did end up being the case. Is there a big difference between the round 1 and round 2 wide receivers? I mean, Tet certainly has a little bit of a unique aspect of him that I don't think any other wide receiver has in this draft. But for the most part, Claude, I would say no. I think there's a thinner line between the round 1 and round 2 wide receivers than maybe some other positions. Packers trade down to pick 20 or pick 35 with the Titans to select Oladejo. What compensation would you want to go back that far? I don't have Oladejo on my board, by the way. There's some weird off the field stuff that Justice brought to my attention. I don't think that's where they go, but if they got to pick 35, I'd want at least probably a future second and maybe like a 4th or 5th rounder this year. So that's probably what I'd be looking at in that scenario. Nice job, Ben. Good stuff. They've done it before with Daniel Jones. Yes, they have. Dart at 3 would be more of a WTF than Daniel Jones. I agree. What are your predictions in terms of how many trade ups or trade downs you see in the first round? Over under. I didn't even see your over under, and I was going to say 6. So I guess I'll go under 6.5. 6 trades. Imagine the Giants GM kid making the Jackson Dart pick after they blew the Jaden Daniels pick. No. Want the Dolphins to draft Amos? I like Barron, but Timmy, he's a slot. I'm not drafting him at 13, and I'm staying away from Will Johnson because of the injuries. There you go. That's fine. I'm assuming you meant to me. He's a slot. I knew what you meant, though. Josh Jones versus the Bengals was one of those unbelievable games that just never, ever repeated itself. Do you think Mark Murphy is telling Goot to trade up or down? Don't trade because the draft is in Green Bay. No, he did the exact opposite on multiple occasions. He told Goot that he needs to do whatever he needs to do that's in the best interest of the team. And he said it on multiple occasions. He's told it to the media. He has given Goot blank check, carte blanche to do whatever he needs to do to make this the best team possible. Trade Ketan Oladapo for a 2nd and a 3rd rounder to draft Cam Ward. I don't think you're going to see that happen, Elijah. Would Goot be crazy enough to draft a quarterback in round 1 if one falls? Not like any of us expected when Love drafted. No chance. 0% chance. Alec, you are more than welcome. Thank you so much for being here. All right, I'm going to get out of here in just a little bit, guys. Jair could be a throw-in for a late round trade, like a pick swap or something. The hard part of that is that he has to pass a physical, right? So draft day trades for players like that are tough. I would expect that if Jair gets traded, it's going to be for future draft compensation at this point and not for 2025 draft compensation. If you had to pick a school not named Bama or Bulldogs for this draft, what would you pick? Man, I have to go through and look at like all the different, players all throughout the different schools. I mean, Oregon gets you Birch and Harmon. Colorado gets you Hunter and Shador, and not that helps Green Bay a ton. And Shiloh, I guess. I'm sure there's probably others. See if anything else makes sense. I'll go Penn State. I'll go Abdul Carter, Tyler Warren. There's some good late round draft picks from Penn State as well. So I'm going to go Penn State in this one. Give me Abdul Carter, Tyler Warren, and I'll take any other cherries on top of that. Now I want to see if I can sort it by college. Oh, I can't do it in college by the draft tracker. That's a bummer. Oh, well. Either way. Oh, here we go. School. Can I sort it by school? No, I cannot sort it by school. Oh, well. Either way, I'm going to go Penn State as my answer. All right. Mark wouldn't pressure one way or the other. Not his move. Totally agree. I take Stuart Harmon, BC Edge, Michael Williams over Golden easy. Fair enough. I'm scared to hear the name Josh tonight, meaning we get another offensive lineman, and I have major offensive line fatigue after Morgan and Banks. I don't think it's going to go that way. Plus 1,000 for offensive line at the moment for the draft odds. So certainly doesn't seem to be trending in that direction. Not that it's a fail safe or a fail all, but or a catch all, but it's usually at least a decent sign. How loud will the chant "Bears still suck" be tonight? It'll be very, very loud. Very, very loud. Yes, that was the weird, at least again, per justice, I haven't looked into it too much, but yes, that was. Shout out to Packers fans in Mexico. Love that. Patricio, thanks so much for being here. You're the best. What's your thoughts on how Jair has been treated? I think pretty salty myself, but if we draft corners 1-2, what'll happen to him? Jair's not back no matter what. Lead pipe lock it in. I do not think that Jair is back no matter what happens in the draft, no matter what happens, period. I am very confident in that statement. So I do not think he's going to be a Green Bay Packer anymore. As far as how he was treated, I think he's been given multiple opportunities. Obviously, there was the suspension previously. I think both sides have tried to make this kind of work. I just think it got stale at some point. I think for both sides, for Jair and for Green Bay, it's just time to move on. Tyleik Williams, please. I would much rather take Tyleik Williams in round 2. Oh, guys, is a really good answer too. Yeah, you're probably right, Tim. That's probably a better answer than Penn State. I didn't think of that. You're probably right. Mississippi with players at almost all positions: Nolan, Amos, Ivy, Harris, Dart, Paul. It's not a bad answer either. Sad though, because all the other stuff aside, Jaws one of the most interesting personalities in the game. I totally agree. Yeah, I agree, Tulio. I don't think he's going to be back in any way. All right, friends. I think that's going to do it for me for now. It always is tough. Hey, Sergeant Dan's here, though. Hey there, Andy. Happy draft day from the Green Bay Distillery. Sergeant Dan, thanks so much for being here. Happy draft day to you as well. Do still have some things I need to catch up on and get done. I got to upload a podcast from Mark Eckel and Jason Perrone here. So I'm going to do that in just a moment. Get some pre-draft stuff done. Yeah, what a beautiful day. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for being here. 600 of you here. Thank you for that. Make sure tonight, live NFL draft party, 6:30 p.m. kickoff, right? Did I say 6:30? 6:30, right? 6:30 p.m. kickoff. One more. I wanted to shout out Habish and Rotier one more time as well. Green Bay's building their future this week. If it's an injury that's holding you back from yours, let Habish Rotier help you move forward. Consistently winning cases across the country and statewide has earned the attorneys at Habish Rotier a national reputation for being the law firm to call when it's a must-win situation. This is a must-win draft for Green Bay. If you are in that must-win situation, make sure to check out Habish Rotier. Cannot recommend them enough. They're unbelievable. And again, they've done such an amazing job of supporting the podcast. So make sure that you are supporting them when you have the opportunity as well. Super easy to get to. You can get to them by calling 800-2HABISH or, of course, going to habish.com as well. Again, draft party tonight, 6:30 p.m. Hope to see you guys there. Huge shout out to both Habish and Luiges for sponsoring today's show. I'll see you guys later. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.